Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you once again for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you. So tonight we're going to talk about Dave Chappell. Now, I know I'm a little bit late, but hey, sometimes things happen, and I like to make sure that before I say something about someone or something, that I have at least as much information about it as I possibly can, because even though we are all wrong at some point in times, I'm going to try to get this as right as I possibly can. So with Dave Chappell, he has come out himself and stated that he's a TERF, he's a homophobe, he's transphobe, and he hasn't come out and said that he's a bigot, but with those things saying that you are transphobic, that makes you a bigot. And not only that, he is historically wrong about the interactions of the LGBTQ community and Black Lives Matter and the Civil Rights Movement and the plight of Black Americans and anyone that is a person of color in the United States. He stated that the LGBTQ community has not done anything to help the Black community. They haven't been there marching with us. They haven't fought for our civil rights. And much of the same that he said before is that they haven't done anything to help us, but he will stop making jokes about them. But let's back up on the civil rights aspect of the LGBTQ community. So, as we know, the Black Lives Matter movement was founded by 3 Black women, and 2 of those Black women identify as queer. They are part of the LGBTQ community, and they have been fighting for the civil rights of African Americans and people of color ever since the inception of Black Lives Matter. So in that aspect, with just like 2 seconds of Googling it myself, I found that he was completely and utterly and thoroughly wrong. Not only that, in the 50s and 60s, the queer community were some of the people who were at the forefront of the civil rights movement. Now, I could easily, like I did, Google search it and find that, hey, that's a fact. But Dave Chappell, being the smart, intelligent, resourceful, extremely wealthy man that he is, was either too lazy to go and find this information out for himself, or he was too busy being a bigot to stop himself from saying bigoted things and say, hey, what I just said isn't true, but he didn't. He said those things because he truly feels this way, because he is a bigot. He's a transphobe. He's a homophobe. And he cannot help himself. And I'm not saying that he's lying about the civil rights issue when it comes to the queer community, but I would say that he is being extremely dishonest and intellectually lazy when it comes to looking up whether or not and researching whether or not the LGBTQ community has ever helped us in any way when it comes to civil rights. They did. And I will put links in the description to show you that he is patently wrong, and it's absurd what he's saying, and that he could be and do better. I like Dave Chappell as a comedian, but as a person, I think he's a piece of shit, because what he has said harms people. As a Black man myself, I understand what it's like when people say horrible things about you just because of the color of your skin, not because you've done something wrong, not because you are a murderer, a killer, or a rapist, or anything like that. Just because you have different skin. Hell, 20 plus years ago, I used to think just like Dave Chappell. And then someone came along and says, you should probably really reconsider what you were thinking about these people, because they are, number one, human beings, and you should treat and think of them as human beings. And when I was told that, I started doing research. I started looking into what it was that I believed and what I thought and how I thought, and it changed my mind and how I saw these people. They are people. They are human beings, and they deserve all the respect and the rights and consideration that everyone else does. Even more so, because they are just like us. There are people of color who are LGBTQ. For him to say that they are not fighting with us and helping us in any way in our struggle is obviously wrong, because I'm pretty sure he knows people who are gay, lesbian, trans, queer, that are African American, that are people of color. So he's either just being a bigot for the fun of it, he's being a liar, or he is just not as smart as he would lead us to believe. And I doubt that he's not as smart that he's leading us to believe, because he is a smart man. So I'm going to go with he's being a bigot. Dave Chappell is a transphobe, homophobe, and a bigot. And it saddened me because I really had a lot of respect for this man and the things that he has done with his career. The ups and downs, I followed it all. And I literally had his back. But at this point in time in my life, until he changes who he is and how he thinks about people who are not like him, he does not have my support. And I cannot support him being the way and saying the things that he's saying and being the way that he is towards people who have a different lifestyle, a different way of living, or who are just different. And he needs to educate himself, and he needs to do better, because I'm pretty sure that he can. He's got the money and resources to know and do better. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you very much for joining me. And by all means, don't forget to be the best heathens that you can be. And have a great evening.